This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Alrighty. How you doing, Ira? I'm sure you're not doing a tenth of how I'm feeling right now, but that's all right.
You know what? When the Heat win 10 out of 13, all I want to do is win no matter what. So I have no issues right now.
Yep, neither do I. The Heat are winning, and I'm winning. So, that's it's just there's winning all around. I mean, the Heat aren't winning nearly as much as I am. Or, the rest of my fellow Bitcoin brethren, of course. We are the real winners here overall because we're the ones that stayed through the tough times. Like we do as fans, by the way, with the Miami Heat, which I got to say, I would watch with frustrations because, the effort wasn't there from your most important player. But, Saturday just continues to prove that your most important player is actually, he wants it and he wants to play hard and he wants to showcase and all that good stuff. And there's a trickle-down effect, to all of that. And it's a lot of fun to watch them now because now they're playing like the Panthers play every single night.
Well, and that's the thing is we know the Heat are just a part-time team. We know they wait till after midseason, after the All-Star break. We have all that consternation. They lost 7 in a row. Look, I don't like it. I don't like for the paying fan to show up at a point where the Heat have a certain indifference, but it's who they are. And they rose from the play-in last season. They might have to rise from the play-in again this season, but at least you know what you're getting. You know what you're getting from this team that come go time, you have a player who is playoff Jimmy Butler. You have guys who move forward, and you have Eric Spoelstra, who will show you more wrinkles as the season goes on to get his team set. Also, that's the difference right now.
The best. He is just absolutely the best by miles and miles and miles. He's so ahead of everybody in this league. I don't think there's going to be any playing. I'm watching a team that's giving me effort. It's a pretty damn good team right now. You're only half a game behind Orlando. You're a game. What is it? A game behind Philadelphia, and a game and a half behind the Knicks. These are all very realistic moves for the Miami Heat. They can move all the way up to the 4th spot now, especially with the Knicks having all the injuries. And right now, they're better than Orlando and Philadelphia the way they're playing right now. So maybe we're not going to have to deal with the play. And I think it sounds to me the way Jimmy's attacking this shit, I don't think he wants to deal with the play-in.
Oh, no, he wants 5 days off. He knows what it's like to go from that Friday game in the play-in, boom, you're in Milwaukee, even if you wind up winning. Plus, when you look at the standings, you wind up in the play-in, you have a chance to face the Celtics in the first round. Now, you can tell me all you want, Big O, about how the Heat have the Celtics numbers. The Boston Celtics have never been as good during the Jimmy Butler era as they are right now. The Celtics with Porzingis, who didn't even play yesterday, but with Porzingis and Drew Holiday, are a much better team. You do not want them until the latter stages of the playoffs. So you wind up in that 3-6 bracket. You wind up in a good place. Right now, if you get number 6, you're getting either Cleveland or Milwaukee. Look, Milwaukee's talented. They're good. But the Heat have the number 1. Doc Rivers is their playoff coach number 2. Got to feel pretty good there. Cleveland, just a sort of glad to be their kind of team. I'll take my chances any day with that team also. So if you wind up with either one of those two in the first round, you're in a good spot. Then you don't get the Celtics in the second round. So you can go on a run. So there's clearly some sweet spots. You mess around with that 7 or 8 seed and you get the Celtics in the first round. The one thing the Heat have done when they've gotten the Celtics, they've gotten them late in the playoffs when they get beat up a little bit. You get this Boston team in the first round. With all due respect to what the Heat have done against the Celtics, I don't want to see the Celtics till as late as possible.
No, you're right about that. Although I will say this, I know they're the better team right now, but we have the better coach. So I still, even in that moment where you feel you're inferior, you still have the guy that can sometimes be the difference maker.
Yeah, but talent tends to trump all. And Boston's talent level in the East with Tatum, with Brown, with Holiday, with Porzingis, and even Derek White and the way he's playing, they are loaded with talent right now. That is a opponent better avoided.
Let me ask you something, because a buddy of mine who lived the New York days back in the day with Bradley and
DeBusschere, Barnett, and
right. So he made a very interesting comparison. He said, you know, Bill Bradley and Duncan can be compared, and he sent me this. He goes, Bradley and Duncan are both known for their shooting skills and their ability to play multiple positions. They also have similarities in their basketball journeys. They both went undrafted in the NBA draft. Bradley was a territorial pick of the Knicks in '65, but he delayed his NBA debut for 2 years to pursue a Rhodes Scholarship at Oxford. Robinson was not selected in the 2018 draft, but he signed with the Heat as a free agent. They both played professional basketball in Europe before joining the NBA. Bradley played 1 season in Olimpia Milano in Italy, where he won the EuroLeague championship in '66. Robinson played 1 season in Corral Rona in France, where he averaged 16.7 points per game in 17-18. They both improved their performances over time in the NBA. Bradley started as a reserve player for the Knicks, but he became a key contributor as a starter to their championship teams in the 70 and 73. He also made the All-Star team in 73. Robinson also started as a bench player for the Heat, but he became a regular starter and a record-breaking shooter in the 2020 NBA Finals run. He also set the NBA record for most three-pointers made by an undrafted player in a single season in 2019 and 2020. It's a pretty interesting comparison, you know, just for fun. I mean, we're not going to put him in the Bradley conversation yet
until he runs for president. Then we can add it all in there.
But the journey is kind of interesting. It's very comparable. You know what I'm saying? And we still don't know how the rest of his career finishes. So it's kind of like an open book there. It's kind of, we still have chapters to write for Duncan Robinson, but in his comparison, there's some stuff there, man. It's pretty cool.
Especially great coaches, whether you have Red Holtzman or whether you have Eric Spoelstra, know how to use a player, but also great ensemble teams where the leading man wasn't just a out-and-out all-star. Yes, they had Walt Frazier, they had Willis Reed, they had Dave DeBusschere, they had Dick Barnett, and then Earl Monroe came in there, Mike Reardon, Dave Stallworth, but they were such a team. They played together as a unit like the Heat do now. When the Heat are at their best, we see a bunch of guys in double figures. We see a bunch of guys 20-point scorers. They know how to use their components. Bill Bradley knew his place, just like DeBusschere did. Just like Clyde Frazier could have averaged so much more, but he focused, like Jimmy Butler, on the defensive end. That mattered to him. So I think you could see the comparisons. When you have an ensemble team, all the pieces have to mesh. I've never seen a team mesh more than those Knicks, even just with their one championship. Everyone was selfless, from Reed to DeBusschere to going down the line in that lineup. The Heat, when they play their best, are the same way also. Duncan Robinson fits this team. Duncan Robinson, for all the trades to Sacramento and Portland that they were sending him somewhere else, I don't think would be the best player. So it goes back to your point, Big O, you always mentioned to me, how Eric Spoelstra can maximize players. Duncan is better nowhere else than he is on this team. That goes with Bam Adebayo also. It goes with Jimmy Butler. They've gotten more out of him than a Tom Thibodeau did, than the other coaches that work with Jimmy Butler did. So when you look at it, it's a matter of knowing what you have and knowing how to use it. And that's what makes Duncan special.
Goes for Gabe Vincent, too, by the way.
And Max Strus and just everyone else. Now, Max having a hell of a season in Cleveland.
Max Strus has had a good year. Hell, he had a game-winning shot last week.
The midcourt shot he made the other day. But Eric Spoelstra, you know, it's the old thing. How many players who have thrived from the Heat as undrafted success stories go on somewhere else and have that success? And the answer is, honestly, Max Strus is almost a breakthrough player this year with that approach, as opposed to Kendrick Nunn and just players who've left like that who were never seen again and now are overplaying in Greece or Italy.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. Caleb is really, I think, now finding his place now again. You know what I mean? Although I do worry about him because, man, every once in a while he gets dinged up and you're like worried about him getting, because that's one thing. He's had a problem staying healthy, too.
You know what? He has a lot of Goron in him. He throws his body in there. He just hurls his body into the mix. I mean, how many games did Goron lose teeth? You know, and how many times was he bleeding from the mouth during games, which you appreciate? I think what the Heat now found is the sweet spot for Caleb. So as much as people, including the Big O and our accurate Pembroke Pines reporter, talked about Nikola Jovic as a starter, What that also has allowed is Caleb to return to his energizing bench role. And you saw it in the game on Saturday when the Heat were lifeless and needed something. Erik Spoelstra went with Haywood Highsmith and Caleb Martin, set them loose like junkyard dogs in the trap, in the full court press. They energized the Heat. That turned the game around. You need those energizers off your bench. That's what Caleb has given you. That's what Haywood has given you. And that's why, Big O, at the start we were talking about the Heat coming around, I think everyone's starting to find their place now. They're finding their place on the bench. They're finding individual roles. When everyone is healthier, it's a lot easier to do that, which brings us back to your favorite. Now we got to get Tyler in the mix. And does that help? Or is that one too many chefs in the kitchen? We need to find that out also.
Bench. Put him on the bench. All right. That's it, bro. I'm telling
And you know 1,000% that's not happening.
Well,
you know it's not happening, though.
Right, it's the right thing to do. He should.
Is it happening?
I don't know. I'm going to take your word for it. You're around them more than I am. But if I'm Erik Spoelstra, I pull the Band-Aid or tear the scab and say, "Yo, kid, sorry, this is what's best for the team. We got to put you on the bench." He, and look, when you talk about finding roles now, we were talking about Jovic. It's either you start or you don't play at all. Well, guess what? Since the San Antonio game, he's been in double-digit minutes every single game. So something tells me now he's crossed that threshold under Erik Spoelstra, that Spoelstra wants to see more minutes from Jovic, and he's probably earned it in his eyes too. That's probably why he's also playing. So now when you bring back Tyler, how do you balance all these minutes? But you can't change certain things from certain players that give you things that Tyler does not give you. You know what I mean? Whether it's rebounding or defense, those kind of things that he just does not provide, that you have to have more of that on the court as a balance. And I just think Tyler, unlike Duncan, Tyler hasn't done enough to become more of a complete player. And Duncan has surpassed him by miles in improving from one stage to another. Tyler is still the same player we drafted a couple of years ago that we've watched for a few years. He's the same exact player. He really has not improved that much, unlike Duncan, who has drastically.
But I think he started a higher bar, and I think he's still viewed as a better player. Here's the problem, Big O.
He's offensive player. That's it anymore.
That matters. In today's 120-point NBA, that matters also.
But I'd rather have Duncan and everything else. I'd rather have him.
Well, that's the question you're sort of leading me to, is that if you're going to start Nikola and Bam in the power rotation, you have 3 spots left. So if one goes to Jimmy and one goes to Terry Rozier and one goes to Tyler, then Duncan doesn't start. Then he winds up on that bench unit also. So you have to make that adjustment with your 3-point shooting. Now, with Jimmy hitting threes, it's helping a little bit, but that offsets it also. So, look, there still are, with 6 weeks to go, real decisions for Erik Spoelstra to make. And that's why, Big O, I think the point you made at the top of our Accurate Pembroke Pines report is so important. If you avoid the play-in, you get at least 5 days off to reset yourself. Remember, Big O, how Pat Riley used to have playoff camp? After the regular season would end, he'd take the team to Palm Beach. He used to take his Knicks teams to Charlotte, South Carolina. He'd get them together. We'd have playoff camp. You need that. That helps. Imagine the mad scientist that is Erik Spoelstra having 5 days to prepare for an opponent. I'd be scared crapless if I was the other team, because what he's going to cook up, Dr. Frankenstein in that laboratory. Now, if he has to go through last season and lose to Atlanta in the first game and play Chicago on a Friday and go Milwaukee, it just makes it that much tougher. So Jimmy Butler's got to come out and be unworldly just to carry you through Milwaukee. Now, if he has 5 days, if I'm the other coaching staff, I'm sitting and trembling, wondering, what's this guy going to come up with? Because he always comes up with something.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. All right, what are you working on? So, folks,
I just posted a story on Jimmy Butler's 3-point shooting. He has a 14-game streak with at least one. It's actually the second longest of his career. With Chicago going into the playoffs in 2015, he had a 19-game streak, which shows this is what he can do. And I like what Erik Spoelstra said. It's almost like Papa Shot for him. They're playing so far off of him. It's a set shot, not even having to jump, high percentage shot. But you'll also notice something you'll see tomorrow against Detroit at the arena also. Now when he does that pump fake, people are coming out on him. and boom, he's going right around him. So you create the threat of the three, as every player needs to have in today's NBA. It makes it easier for him also. So I wrote about that and sort of the jump he's made in the NBA. And then I wrote a story yesterday that's in today's paper. You've got to take care of the must-wins. You have Detroit 3 times in the next 2 weeks. I know they're playing better. I know they got screwed out of a victory in New York, but you've got to take care of that. You've got Washington twice coming up in the next 3 weeks. Think about that. A quarter of your remaining schedule is against Detroit and Washington. You can't afford a slip-up, and that starts tomorrow at the Kaseya Center.
Yeah, I'm at least from what I'm seeing, this is not the team that's looking to slip. It would have to be a night that they just shot crap. And that happens to every team in the NBA a couple nights where it just, you
have to compensate with your defense. Then you can't even let that happen. Yeah.
I'm seeing a different team out there because of the way Jimmy's playing. I don't think there's any more mailing in. I think they're going to be working their asses off.
Well, one thing before we talk next week on our accurate Pembroke Pines report, after the game against Detroit on Tuesday, they have a very tough back-to-back. Thursday in Dallas, Friday in Oklahoma City. Those are going to be tough games. Yeah. I am curious, does Eric Spoelstra prioritize winning and push Jimmy Butler through big minutes? Or does he say, hey, let's just get a split here? Now, they'll never say that publicly, but I am curious to see how they handle, because you still do have to manage also. You know what, Big O?
Yeah, hey, by the way, since you're talking about that, why don't you fucking go tell Tata Martino that on Saturday? Jesus Christ, bro. We're blowing the shit out of these people out of the water, and you got Messi all the way at the end of the game. What are these people doing, bro?
So you're saying 5-0 was a safe lead?
I'm saying 3-0 was a safe lead already at that point. Jesus Christ. That's the kind of shit I'm talking about right there, that you cannot do that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, you're right. That's the good thing about this Heat team. They've got a nice bench now. And if you have the luxury of blowing out Detroit, let's rest Jimmy in the fourth.
Right. So you have Jaime to come on, let him have a game. Even if you split Dallas and Oklahoma City, you come back, you play Washington, you should be fine.
Yeah, man. I really like how Caleb's really coming around.
Sure.
And then Jovic, man, I'm so impressed with that kid. He is really, really growing up. Those two youngins are just absolutely excellent additions to this team, man.
Yeah, nice future. Nice future for this team.
All right, follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat and subscribe to the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Ira, as always, thank you. Appreciate it.
Catch you during the winning streak next week on the accurate Pembroke Pines Report. Thanks, Big O.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.